Well, welcome everyone. We'd like to welcome you to our science seminar on health and wellness. And we'd like to introduce our special guest, Dr. Dondi Nettles, which will be, he's joining us today. Dr. Nettles, how are you?
I am so great, Mark. How are you, my friend?
Doing so amazing. Thank you for taking time and joining us on this science seminar today. For those of you that don't know Dr. Don D. Nettles, he's a former family wellness doctor of chiropractic in Arizona, specializing in posture correction. Is that correct, doctor?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
You
I'm
know,
watching your
he,
posture.
Dr. Nettles, I better do good then. Dr. Nettles had the fourth largest solo chiropractic practice in Arizona, seeing about 350 to 500 patients per week. He was also an AM talk radio host prior to becoming a stay-at-home dad, wellness educator, 9 to 5 exit strategist, podcaster, and home-based global entrepreneur. He now has the perfect blended family with his beautiful wife, Marcy. Um, and together they have 4 great kids and 3 grandkids. They're passionate about equipping, elevating, and empowering families to create a global legacy and achieve their dreams. Well, Dr. Nettles, thank you again for honoring us and being on our science seminar today. And today's topic, by the way, is I mean, it's a huge, huge topic in the media, in the marketplace, and we're going to talk about GLP-1 and what it is and what it isn't, and also there's some, medications that are tied to this GLP-1 concept. So without further ado, I'll just ask you, Dr. Nettles, to start this off. GLP-1, what is GLP-1?
Well, GLP-1 in the traditional sense and where it all comes from is a natural hormone that the body produces when we eat. And first, just let me say, Mark, it's an incredible honor. One that you would even ask me to be on this wellness webinar, and is an honor to be here. And I'm so looking forward to sharing information with everyone because to your question, GLP-1, if you haven't heard about it yet, you will, and you will very soon, because it literally is based on supply and demand. There is a growing population globally of people that are overweight or obese. And as a result, we talk about this GLP-1 hormone. So it's not something that our body naturally produces. And when it does, it's after we eat. So after we eat a meal, and that meal is in our stomach, the stomach senses it, that there's food there. It sends a signal to our lower intestine that's basically saying, hey, we've got some food. We're about to digest it. It's coming your way. Get ready. And the intestine sends a signal to the pancreas that says there's some carbohydrates in this food we're eating. We're going to have some glucose. All of the cells of our body need the glucose. So get ready. It's coming. And the pancreas gets ready and sends a signal to the brainstem. I heard there's some food in the stomach. The intestine's telling me that I'm going to need to produce some insulin to break down this glucose. Is that true? The brainstem confirms it, and the brainstem says, okay, hold on, stop eating. And the brainstem plays a role. So it's this whole feedback loop called the gut brain axis. But the key player in this entire thing is GLP-1, which stands for glucagon like peptide 1. And it's a hormone that is produced in our gut, in our pancreas, and in our brainstem when we eat food. That's the real understanding of it and how it works. But to your point, you said there's medicines. The GLP-1 medicine is a what is called an agonist. It's like 94% like the hormone, but it's not really. It's kind of like when you've seen around Halloween, at least here in the United States, we know the difference between a real skeleton and a little boy wearing a skeleton costume. There's, one is a mimic of the other. The drugs you're talking about are mimics of the real deal, which is the hormone our body produces when we eat. Here's the problem with the medications. They're 94% similar in a structural standpoint, but they're not used after you eat. They're used before you eat so that you don't eat as much. So it's kind of tricking our body into thinking there's really food there when it's not. But guess what? You can trick a person once, you can trick a person twice, and eventually they start really, hey, wait a second, you're tricking me. And it's going to be harder to trick them moving forward. Well, the body's no different. That's what we call side effects. So you can trick the body for a short period of time. You may lose weight in the process, but the body will eventually figure it out. And when it goes against how the body works, even though you may lose weight, there's always side effects. And that's the downside of the drugs in the market. But if you'd like, I'd love to share with you some statistics about this because this is it's a gigantic market and it's getting bigger and bigger every year, which is why this product that we are about to come out with here in a couple months is going to be so powerfully, predictably successful.
So let me ask, before you jump into the statistics, let's get back to that hormone, the GLP-1 hormone. So from what you were saying is that it helps with the body to reduce or to produce insulin so that it can reduce the blood sugar in the body. Is that one of the benefits of that GLP-1 hormone?
That's actually the primary benefit. So the whole thing about food is it's not what we eat that matters. It's what we can digest and absorb that matters. And the absorption of the glucose, which is literally the fuel that our cells need to do their job, it's completely dependent on insulin. And if we don't have enough insulin, we don't absorb all that glucose, and our cells are literally left starving. And most of the time, we have too much. We have too much glucose, which overpowers the insulin, and it ends up turning to fat, which is actually how this whole drug came about. Because people that are overweight or obese, or the other stage of that is diabetes. When people have diabetes, then they don't balance the glucose properly. They don't have enough insulin to absorb the glucose, and we get into this whole downward spiral. And I want to make sure that our product is not addressing the obesity. It's not addressing being overweight. It's not treating these things, and it's certainly not treating diabetes. It's dealing with the variables that cause those things in the first place. And that's the market. That's why GLP-1 is so critically important. But insulin and GLP-1 are very interdependent. They literally depend on one another. So when you eat food, your brain gets the signal of the GLP-1, the pancreas produces the insulin absorbs the glucose, the cells are well, and everything is working properly. It's when that whole mechanism gets out of balance because we're either eating too much food that contains too much glucose, too much sugar, too much carbohydrates, that we get out of balance and we start to go developing these negative health consequences, first by gaining weight, then gaining a little bit more weight, then getting a little bit more weight, and then being pre-diabetic, and then diabetic, and then obese, and then it's a whole downward spiral. But that's how it starts. It starts with the whole process going wrong.
So that's how that's how you break that system, if you would, right? I mean, what you're saying, you eat too much food or you don't exercise, and then something happens in that system process, and then the body doesn't produce enough of that GLP-1 hormone. Is that am I understanding that correctly, doctor?
Exactly. Or it doesn't produce enough of the GLP-1 hormone and insulin. And so
I
they
see.
go hand in hand, but there are often times when GLP-1 goes down, so also does insulin. And sometimes in cases of extreme obesity, the body's literally producing zero GLP-1.
Wow.
It stops producing it.
So hence you need the medication that
Yeah.
what did you call it? An antagonist?
It's called an
GLP-1
agonist. So
agonist.
GLP-1 receptor agonist. So it's kind of like, again, that analogy of we know the difference between a real skeleton and a boy in a costume that's a skeleton. The body doesn't know the difference, though. The body will take a 94% like synthetic, think it's the real thing, and actually stop the food cravings, or give even though there's no food in the stomach, giving the signal as if there was. So it's called satiety, or knowing when your stomach is full, even when there's no food in there, and it defeats the mechanism. Now, yes, the positive, we lose weight. The positive, we feel better. The positive is great. We look better. We fit into the clothes again. The negative is we're tricking our body, and the body will eventually always figure out that it's being tricked. And then it will stop working. And then the other side effects of not only do you lose fat, here's a statistic I can introduce is that under normal, let's say somebody wants to lose weight naturally and they start exercising more and eating more nutritious food with less calories. They do that long enough, they're definitely going to lose weight. They're definitely going to feel better. That pattern has an ideal. And that ideal is of all the weight that you lose, 75% of it should be fat weight. 25% of it is lean muscle mass weight. That's normal. That's average. When you focus on diet and exercise, here's the bad statistic. When you focus on the GLP-1 agonists and the drugs and the ones that are like that, 2/3 of the weight that you lose is lean muscle mass.
Ooh, not
Only
good.
1/3 that you lose is fat. And so you end up getting thinner and you weigh less, but you're actually fatter based on body weight percentage versus of lean muscle mass versus fat. So it's a short-term fix, but it's not a long-term solution. It actually creates problems. And that's the problem is the 75% fat to 25% lean muscle mass and normal weight loss versus this medically assisted weight loss with the drugs. It's 2/3 lean muscle mass weight and 1/3 fat weight.
So can I ask a question just to clarify? So these medications, these agonists, these stimulant, GLP-1 stimulant drugs, so they were initially made for diabetics, but
Correct.
now they're being used for weight loss. Is that correct, doctor?
Yes. So the original FDA approved, and we're talking here in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration approved them for diabetic usage. And in a very specific category of diabetic usage, it's for the people that have determined that exercise and dieting or exercise and eating nutritious food just simply didn't work for them, or they didn't stick to it long enough to have the positive benefit that they were looking for. And so the drug category came about for that specific category of diabetics. But what they found is that it was efficient. The drug actually worked. And so people started to lose weight. Well, then they started writing prescriptions for the drug as a weight loss. You didn't have to have diabetes first, but the FDA never approved it for that. And so in that category, we see more side effects percentages of people that are taking it in the weight loss capacity. They have more side effects because it was never designed for that. It was designed for the diabetic population that have an insulin issue. And some people that they have extra weight to lose, they may not have an insulin issue. But this is geared for the specific people with insulin issues. So now the pancreas is going to have some problems. The gut's going to have some problems. Absorbing glucose is going to have some problems because it's being used in an area that it was never meant to be used for. And that's where the increased side effects in that population, but it still works, but there's a trade-off. And most of the patients know that there's going to be side effects if the doctors are doing their job and warning them. And interestingly enough, most people know their side effects, but the weight loss is a greater benefit to them than the negative of the side effects. So they do it anyway. It's
So
just the
that's
unfortunate
so
reality.
that's why in the last, what, 3 to 5 years, I mean, this huge boom in
Oh,
this
yeah.
weight loss category using these drugs was because because it worked. People lost weight. The side effects, the benefits to them outweighed the negative, and so they start to use it. And I mean, I was reading some statistics, and that stimulant GLP-1, the drug category is huge. How many billion? Can you tell us, shed some light on us? How big is this market now? This weight
Well,
loss.
it has become the number one category of prescriptions written in the United States. And so, so overall, we have about 350 million people here in the United States. There are 14 prescriptions written for every single American every year in the United States. That's how dependent on pharmaceuticals that we've become. And in all of those prescriptions written, the vast majority or the greatest percentage in a category is the GLP-1 weight loss drugs. It has quickly become the number one prescribed drug in the United States. And it's about a 27 to $28 billion a year industry right now in
In
2024.
2024. Wow.
2024, and it's expected to increase by 20% per year for the next 5 years running at least.
So it's a huge market, this weight loss management market using these drugs. If
Yeah.
you
And
wow.
it's simply a supply and demand curve. I mean, it's based on pure economics. And so when there's a large population and that population is growing that need a drug like this, or they have the need to lose weight, and it's here in the US, 73% of US adults are overweight and 36% of US adults are obese. So there's a massive market, and those numbers are not going down every year. They're getting bigger every year. And the more reliant we get on convenience and processed foods, and the more reliant we get on symptom reduction from drugs, the greater and more rapidly that number will grow, which is why it's projected to grow 20% annually, year over year, for the next 5 years at least.
That's huge. That's huge.
Which is,
And not just in the United States, but this weight management market is huge globally. I mean, in every country across the globe, people are interested in weight management. So I mean,
yeah,
it's like you said, it's about 120 plus billion dollars by 2030, 2031. I mean, that's
yeah,
a huge market.
that's the projection. And
So
it's
let me
pretty
ask this
accurate as far
question.
as how it's been going.
So from listening to you, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, if you could actually have your body produce that GLP-1 hormone, it's so much more efficient, effective, so much more healthier, better than those drugs. Is that what I heard? Just to
Yeah,
clarify.
exactly. And I'm going to kind of go back to the original definition of these GLP-1 agonists. What an agonist means is it's a chemical mimic of the original hormone. And it's 94% like, which is close enough for the body to literally be tricked by it. So, but it is actually mimicking something the body naturally produces. So, under normal circumstances, when I sit down or when anyone sits down and eats a meal, and that meal is sitting in the stomach, the cells of the wall of the stomach sense that there's food there, and it sends a signal to the lower intestine. It says, we've got food coming, get ready. And the intestine sends a signal to the pancreas. There's food coming, get ready, make that insulin now because we're going to need it to break down and absorb this glucose. And then the pancreas sends the signal to the brainstem to stop eating, send the signal to the brain, we're done. And then that whole feedback loop is great. That's how it's supposed to be. And GLP-1 is a hormone your body naturally produces. And we know that one, the supply and demand is there. The supply, more people are getting overweight and obese every year. The drugs are growing by 20% year over year, which means a major opportunity that what if we could actually find something natural that could turn on the body's ability to work that system again? And that's exactly what we've come up with and exactly what we're going to be releasing to the world. So it's the body working the way it was supposed to work before we ever gained the weight in the first place. That's the whole point.
So if you could activate it or switch it on, switch the body to turn on the production of that hormone again, that would be huge.
It would be huge. And it would be something that the world needs more than they even know they need it.
And doctor, I hear that there's a company out there that's working on a product that activates the body to turn it back on. Wouldn't that be amazing? I can't wait to get my hands on that amazing product there.
Well, it's how innovative and forward thinking the company is to be able to, one, ask the question, is it possible to do something like that? And then, not even knowing the answer, to put effort in motion to figure it out. And then once figure it out using natural ingredients. And here's the critical thing about natural ingredients. Natural ingredients, when absorbed by the body, usually allow the body to work in a natural way. Synthetic ingredients, when put into the body, force the body into working in an unnatural way, which is why there's always side effects. And I'll make it as simple as possible. When you equip the body with what it needs to do the job it's supposed to do, it always does. That's what the company sought. That's what the company found. That's what the company is delivering coming forward. But when you manipulate the body with something chemical into doing what you think it should do, it will always object. And that objection is the side effect. Even though you may lose weight, the objection is the side effect because you can't keep tricking the body over and over and over. It will eventually figure it out and it'll stop working, which is why you got to pivot and go another direction. So for even people that have gone down that road, the product coming out will be able to help them get back on a natural method to do exactly what the body's supposed to do without having to trick it.
Well, doctor, thank you so much for educating us on what GLP-1 is, what that agonist or that drug is, what the difference is, and how amazing is it that the body can actually you can activate the body or switch it on to turn on the production, the natural production of that GLP-1 hormone. I think that's going to be a huge, huge, huge product technology, and we're excited. And thank you for being on with us as we close this session here today. Any last thoughts that you want to add about the market size or anything about the GLP-1 hormone, or just to close this up, doctor? Any last words?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the basic understanding of GLP-1 is the hormone talking to the intestines talking to the pancreas talking to the brainstem. That's the basic loop. But there's extra benefits like no cravings, not wanting to snack in between meals, not feeling the need to go back for seconds because your stomach is actually full and feeling full. Those are the things that we haven't even talked about yet, but are the reason why people stick to this when most people don't stick to something because they still have the cravings. They still want to snack in between, which is why they may fall off a program, a natural program or a medication program, and why they don't end up with the results that they want. Because the whole purpose here is not creating another way. It's creating another way that will end with results by removing the reason why people quit in the first place. So just to capitalize on that, knowing the size of this global problem, obesity and being overweight is not just an American problem. It is a global problem, to your point. And synthetic medications have also become a global solution or option for people. What they don't yet know is there is a forthcoming option to honor their body the way it's supposed to work, was designed to work, and gives it the instructions to work that way again so they get the natural benefits of weight loss. And it's also an opportunity to take this message and share it with a world that hasn't yet heard about it and the ability to be first in that process. There's no greater opportunity than to have a win-win situation where everybody wins, except the people that see this and aren't intrigued by it and don't opt in. Those are going to be the people that regret it, but may have an opportunity to come in later, but they'll never be first. You only have one opportunity to be first. And that's the opportunity that we have, Mark. And I am just incredibly honored, one, to be a spokesperson for this because I know the magnitude of what this is going to do to change the world. And I also know the magnitude of what it's like to be first in something. And we compare that. There's no downside to this except for the people that choose not to partake. They're going to lose out on the benefits of the product, or the people that choose not to partake to be first to help carry this message to the world, because that's the opportunity we have. If it were just you and I, we've got 8 billion people in the world. That means you got to talk to 4 billion. I got to talk to 4 billion. That would never happen. We need more voices who care and have people that they want to bless and care about and help. The more voices there are, the better impact we're going to make, the quicker we're going to do it. And that's all the opportunity to be first. And there's plenty of room for everyone. So again, Mark, I am so grateful that you asked me to share this message. I'm so grateful to be able to partner with people like you and your team and the reach of where this video goes. And I'm so grateful to be able to do it right now, because what I can tell you, in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to look back and remember this day, this year of 2020, or 2024 and moving into 2025, when that was the day, that was the time, that was the year that this entire equation shifted, and the global population is much better off because it did. and we had a role to play in that. And that's the greatest honor there is to bless people for the sake of blessing them and of being first in the message to carry it globally. So thank you again, Mark. It's my honor to be here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nettles, for being with us today. And again, our friends out there that are watching this, our podcast, science seminar on wellness. I mean, what an amazing opportunity. I mean, gosh, if we can just turn on the body's own production of that GLP-1 hormone, I mean, how powerful is that? And if you look at that drug market here, for that weight management and that diabetic side, I mean, that whole drug market, what was it again? 27, $28 billion market in 2024 and growing 20% a year to over $120 billion market in the next 5 years. I mean, that is huge. And again, the body just knows what it should do. That if the body produces this GLP-1 hormone, the body is just it's good, right? And so anyway, thank you so much for educating us here and our listeners out there across the globe. Dr. Nurse, thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to do this again, and bring you more information on health and wellness and the body. Aloha, everyone. Have a fantastic day. And we'll see you again soon, Doctor. Thanks for being on.